Okay, now let's move on to our next sutra, which is Sutra 6. Once again, a long name, right? Anurupya Shunyamanyat. Okay, so if you want to break it up, Anurupya, right? Anyat. Shunyam Anyat. Anurupya Shunyam Anyat. Okay. So again, welcome to the sixth one. And this principle for the English translation means if one is in ratio, the other is zero. If one is in ratio, the other is zero. So it again provides an elegant solution to problems involving propositions and special equations. So before we begin our example, let's understand the deeper meaning behind the sutra. So in authentic Vedic mathematics, this principle reveals how certain mathematical relationship can be simplified when proportional patterns, in the word patterns, are recognized. The ancient sages understood that when quantities maintain specific ratios, certain terms in equations can be eliminated entirely. Okay. So now let's look at some of the examples. So the first example is simple proposition with zero. Simple proposition with zero. Okay. So this sutra reveals the ancient Vedic understanding of zero's special role in proportional relationships, right? So the Vedic sages recognize that when zero appears in a proportion, it creates specific constraints on other terms. So this principle allows us to immediately determine unknown values without complex algebraic manipulations. The insight that if one is in ratio, the other is zero demonstrates the profound mathematical understanding our ancestors had about the behavior of zero in equations, providing an elegant shortcut for solving proportional problems. Okay, so let's look at an example here that if a divided by 3 equals c divided by 5, and if a equal to 0, find c. So according to this sutra, that c will also be 0. So let's look at the different steps on how to analyze this pattern and come up with a solution, right? So again, a by 3 equals c by 5. That's the equation, right? So, and it says a equal to 0. So it's 0 by 3 equals c by 5, right? So if you substitute, right, a equal to 0, that's 0 by 3 equals c by 5. That's step 2. So in step 3, since 0 by 3 equal to 0, right? So we have what? 0 equal to c by 5. So automatically this equation to be true, for 0 equal to c by 5 to be true, c equal to 0. Okay, so that's kind of how you kind of validate that, right? So by Anurupya principle, when one term is in proposition is zero, when one term in a proposition is zero, the corresponding proportional term is also a zero, right? That was our sutra. So we kind of validate that. So let's look at another example, cross multiplication with zero, right? So this example, if 2x divided by 7 equal to 0, by y. So if 2x by 7 equal to 0 by y, find x. So that's the equation we're going to solve, right? So this demonstrates how Anurupya principle applies to more complex proportional relationships. So the Vedic sages understood that zero creates special conditions in ratios that immediately constrained other variables. Rather than using cross multiplication mechanically, this sutra teaches us to recognize the pattern. When zero appears in a ratio, the corresponding term in a proposition must also be zero to maintain the mathematical balance. The insight allows us to solve problems with immediate recognition rather than thorough, lengthy algebraic steps. So let's go through the steps to prove this. 2x divided by 7 equal to 0 by y. That's the equation, right? So given that 2x divided by 0, which can be written as this, right? Using cross multiplication, okay, so 2x times y equal to 7 times 0. 2x times y equals 7 times 0, right? So what does that do? 7 times 0 is 0, so 2xy equal to 0, right? And then from the product, so for a product 2xy to be 0, at least one factor on this side, which is x or y, must be 0. So assuming y is non-zero, in this case, x is a 0, right? So by the Anurupye principle, when 0 appears in a ratio, the corresponding proposition term must also be a 0, right? So Anurupye demonstrates that the importance of corresponding propositions proportional relationship in a mathematical problem. Right? So Vedic insights we have explored reveal how ancient sages developed methods to quickly determine the nature of systems of equations by examining the ratios between coefficients. Right? This sutra is particularly valuable for analyzing systems of equations as it helps us identify whether a system has a unique solution, infinite solutions, or no solution at all. So, by recognizing proportional patterns, we can often bypass complex algebraic manipulations and reach conclusions more efficiently.